I hope you guys are having a great Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I am home. I am home. So today I am not in the office, but I wanted to still get on and chat with y'all today. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful evening. I hope that, life is going well for you all. I was a part of a hair show today from through the Design Essentials hair care, and I had Coletta and Yolanda were the reps who brought me in under Gary, and I'm so excited to have been a part of it. I did not know what to expect, but I had an amazing experience, and I definitely will do it again. Um, it was something that I didn't think I would actually enjoy, but I actually enjoyed it. So, you know, my hair, of course, is not going to last the way that she had it, but it is what it is. I think it was cute. I think it came out cute. Unfortunately, I left my other camera at work. So today we are going to have the camera from the computer, and we're going to do our best with it. So I hope that you guys are having a great Monday. Today, I wanted to talk about what does it mean to lock in? What does it mean to lock in? Not just like on on God, but like on all types of things, right? When we want to grow, sometimes we have to stop and we have to lock in on the things that are important to us, the things that bring us joy, so that we can get to where we're trying to be. Sometimes even the things that we need to do, sometimes it doesn't make us happy, it doesn't make us feel good, but we have to lock in anyway. And so it says locking in and what it means to you. And in decisions that your growth is no longer negotiable. Like I know for me, like there's so much I want to do. There's so much that I want in life. And for a long time, I felt like I really wasn't locking in the way that I needed to be locking in, right? Um, I'm choosing discipline now over excuses, right? I want to be disciplined, and I don't want to have excuses on why I'm not moving forward, why things aren't happening in my life. I'm choosing healing over comfort. I'm no longer comfort with those things that aren't bringing me healing, that's causing me to hurt even more, right? I'm choosing purpose over popularity. Sometimes we want to be known, we want to be seen, we want to be heard, but we don't have a purpose of why we're doing these things, right? Or if the purpose, if we do have a purpose, it's not anything to honor God and to honor our further goals, right? It's just for us to have attention right now. And then it says choosing peace over chaos, right? Chaos doesn't always have to mean loud. It doesn't always have to mean someone. It could be just the decisions that you make, right? The things that you allow, the things that you're doing can cause chaos in your life. And then choosing God over your flesh. That is something for me. Like y'all don't even understand. Like this past weekend, I was at war with God. And I didn't even realize how bad I was until, or what was happening until like yesterday afternoon after church. And I realized like I just had been, me and God were fighting. We were literally fighting. And although I looked at it as more of a it was like an emotional thing where I was sad because it was Father's Day weekend, it was my dad's birthday, it was more than that. It was an opportunity for me to see that I needed to lock in with God this weekend. He needed me, he needed my time, he needed my energy, he needed me. And I had to go through this weekend. And when I tell you, like, Thursday night, I did not sleep well at all. And then I was exhausted Friday. And then Friday, also didn't sleep. And so Saturday, I felt like I was just like a zombie. I was just so exhausted. And as I'm reading and as I'm praying, I'm just in tears the entire weekend. And I'm just asking God, like, what is the problem? Like, what is it that you need from me? And I remember by Saturday night, me and God, I was on that floor. And, I don't know about you guys, but like if you ever been in a fight, if you ever been fighting with God, if you ever been wrestling with God about things that you just want him to take away, that you just want him to make better. I was there, snotty nose, couldn't stop crying, and just to be able to get locked in with him this weekend really, really helped me. And so tonight, I wanted to talk a little bit more about locking in, right? Um, a lot of people, they want transformation without sacrifice, right? Some people want to continue to do things the same way they did it, the same way they were taught, and they don't realize that you can't change a pattern, you can't change disorder, you can't overcome certain situations if you're not willing to sacrifice what makes you happy, or the flesh part of you, or the things that you know are not working but you still want to hold on to it because that's all you know, right? Sometimes we don't realize that we have to sacrifice the things that we were taught in order for us to get in line with God. And so for me, I know for sure that there had been things that I needed God to kind of like, I needed to talk to him, but I also needed him to talk to me, and I needed to hear from him because there was a lot of things that I didn't want to change. And to this day, like I'm still working on them, but it's a sacrifice that I make. I'm making that sacrifice to walk with him so that I'm locked into what it is that he has for me, right? You cannot become a new person while protecting the behaviors that are keeping you stuck. Mm, I'm going to read that again. You cannot become a new person while protecting the behaviors that are keeping you stuck. Many of us ask questions like, or we wonder why we keep going into the same habits over and over. We keep going through the same situations over and over. And we don't realize that until we stop protecting those behaviors that are not bringing us joy, we're going to end up finding a little piece of joy, but then end up right back to where we were before. And that's because until we sacrifice those things that we're comfortable in, we're going to continue to go through the same things over and over again. So when we're talking about locking in, that's what I'm talking about. Lock in to those things that you need God to change. Lock in to those things that you know are no longer bringing you joy, or that is just not good for you. There are family habits, there are family patterns, there are old school sayings that mom, dad, grandma, great grand aunt, all these people have said, and people have been holding on to these same different behaviors throughout centuries. And then they wonder why they're not happy. And they wonder why their life isn't being fruitful. And so this weekend, going through the lock-in stage with God, this weekend, and fighting and just being tired. I was tired, y'all, because God is like, listen. And I'm like, no. And and I know it was me being disobedient. It was me being stubborn. But he had to get my attention, so he made me miserable for the weekend in order for me to sit with him, right? So I'm going to read Proverbs 4:23. It says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Locking in starts with protecting your heart, mind, and energy. Not everybody deserves access to me, to you. Not every opportunity is your assignment. Mm. Not every relationship is your purpose. Oh, Jesus. When I tell y'all, like, God was speaking this stuff to me, because I'm just like, why do I keep finding myself in a situation around people and places and things where people take advantage of me, where people just treat me like crap and then make me feel bad, right? This is the stuff that I was talking to God about. And like I told y'all, I'm going to be real, right? because I started to feel as if I was constantly being abused and used. And I was like, God, why? Like, I'm a good person. I do what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm doing my work. I'm doing what you say, and I'm still going through this stuff. And God is saying to me, not every opportunity is your assignment, Tasha. Not everybody around you deserves you, right? And not every relationship is your purpose. I am not here to save everybody. I'm not here to help everyone. And if I'm not paying attention, I'm going to continue to do those things that's going to keep me sad. That's going to keep me burnt. That's going to keep me empty. And so God was saying, lock in with me this weekend. Let me help you. And I was like, no, we got the Juneteenth celebration coming up. Everybody going to be outside. I want to be outside. And I had been praying and praying and praying for all these different things. And God was like, all right, well, if you ain't going to listen, you about to be locked in with me. And he locked me in, y'all. He locked me totally in. One of my girlfriends even looked at me. I had dropped my mom off at church. And my girlfriend looked at me and was like, you do look tired. And I was just like, dang, I tried to look excited. I couldn't, because I was exhausted. I was wrestling with God because God needed me to lock in with him. All right. Okay. So Romans 12:2 says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Notice, God, that he's saying that you have to be transformed you shouldn't be transformed by your circumstances, right? Like, I shouldn't get to the point where just because somebody hurt me, now I become mean and nasty and petty, right? I shouldn't be transformed by that, right? I should not be transformed by what people have done to me, but I should allow God to renew me, to speak to me, to change me. I'm supposed to be looking to him for help, to him for love and affection and honor. He's supposed to renew me. He's supposed to change the from the nasty things that I continue to experience. He said he's going to transform my mind. The things that I keep thinking about, the things that I want all the time that keeps hurting me, God is going to transform my mind. And so I had to think about that this weekend, because I'm just like, I want to do things my way. And he's like, but it ain't working. It's not working. I'm continuing to tell you to do these things, and you're not listening, and you're constantly putting yourself back in these situations. And then he says, your life often follows your thoughts. So these are some of the scriptures that God brought to me this weekend, and I wanted to bring to y'all, because we need to lock in. We need to lock in with God. We need to lock in mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, because time is not promised to us, y'all. But we continue to walk around like we have time to keep fixing things or having do-overs. And God is saying, no. If you don't do what it is that I'm telling you to do, eventually your time is going to be up, and you will not be able to do what I've asked you to do on this earth. And I was just like, dang, but why you got to be at me like this, right? But, although I was in my feelings, although I was, a little frustrated, I was not confused, y'all. I wasn't confused, because I knew everything that he was speaking was truth. And although I did not want to hear it, although it made me angry, because I was angry by some of the things that had just been happening to me, because it's like, dang, like I've just been doing my best to be a good person, to love, to be honest, right? I haven't always been that way, right? I haven't always been a good person. I haven't always been an honest woman. I haven't always been that. But without sacrifice, there's no change. There's no positive change anyway. So I've been sacrificing things in order for me to change, in order for me not to like walk or satisfy my flesh, but satisfy God, right? So I don't want to follow my thoughts. And I've been following my thoughts so long, like overthinking, worrying, anxiousness. All that stuff is what he's talking about. And so he's like, bring it to me and actually bring it to me and leave it. And stop saying the cliches. Stop making it seem like you actually locked in with me, but you're not. And I was like, whoa. Y'all understand. I have a area rug in my room on my floor. It's like a shag. If you've ever been in my office at my, at my therapy office, my room, my bedroom rug is similar to that. And so I'm on the floor and I'm just going. I was just going because I'm like, oh my God. So then he brings to me Galatians 6:9. And he says, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Whoa. Y'all, I'm going to tell y'all right now, I have such a good heart. I always just want people to win. Somebody call me and they need something. If I have it, they got it. Somebody going through something, they need me, I'm there. I have a good heart because I don't do it for recognition. But sometimes I do want people to treat me similar, do something a little bit that I've done for them, to show that they love me, that they honor me, that they respect me, that they care for me, right? That they even like me. And sometimes people don't do that. And so Galatians is talking about we cannot become weary in doing good. I should not have an expectation that someone is going to do good by me because I did good by them. I shouldn't have that expectation. If I'm there to do it out of the goodness of my heart, then I should be doing it just because of that. And what I was going back and forth with God as I was locked in with him was that I do that on a daily basis, but I still feel like I'm being crucified. I still feel like I'm being disrespected. I still feel like I'm not being like loved and honored by people, right? And then it says many people quit right before breakthrough. You know how many times I want to walk away from things, walk away from people, and God be like, no, go back. And I be like, I know that ain't God. That's just me. But no, God was like, no, those times that was me telling you to go back. I told you to go back because you weren't finished. Because I was weary. I was tired. I was depleted. And God is saying, no, go back. And I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to go back. Because every time I go back, there's other crap going on. Every time I try to be nice, every time I go and speak for somebody or I go and do something nice for somebody, it's like something else happens where I'm just like, you gonna do that to me? You gonna X me out of things? Like there has been times where I've shown up for people in their businesses just for when things came up where they could support me. I got X'd, and I was angry about some of these things. And God had to remind me, like, you can't get weary because you're doing God's work. You can't get weary because I'm telling you what you need to be doing. I'm going to reward you. And don't you dare stop before I complete what I need to do in you. So y'all, this weekend, like I still got the little bag under my eyes because, like I said, I'm like last night was the first night that I slept a really, really great like time, and like he was just bringing this stuff out. And I have my Bible app. I have some things on my Bible app that I read, and one of my plans is I'm reading right now. It's called Redeeming Anger, Turning Pain into Purpose. Now, I've heard people talk about turning pain into purpose, but this this particular plan, it's like really helping me to understand that I have anger within me that I needed to release, that I there was still some unforgiveness that I needed to release. And so I felt like when God, because I found that plan popped up on Thursday night, and I started reading that plan Thursday night. And then I went into war with God. I locked in with him, right? And you know, it's just been amazing. So locking in is staying committed even when the results aren't immediately. Y'all, how many of you guys have felt like you have been working? Forget immediate. Like, I'm not even asking for immediate. I'm like, can I get a year? Can I get 2 years? Like, can I get 2 weeks? Like, why is it that I'm constantly doing good? I'm constantly doing all these great things, and I feel like there's nothing coming. And I'm crying out to God and I'm telling God, like, I am tired. I don't want to do this no more. Like, take this away from me. Take that person out of my life. Move me away from that particular thing, you know? And God is like, I felt like God was laughing at me, y'all. I felt like, like if, when you have a child, like a little infant, and they're crying and crying and crying and crying, and really there's nothing wrong with that infant, and you have nothing else to do but to just sit there and listen to that infant cry. And then finally that infant stopped crying when you pick them up or do whatever. Like, I felt like that's how God was looking at me that night. Like, he was like, yeah, I already told you what to do, and you crying, but that's not getting you nowhere. Like, when I'm ready to do what I need to do to pick you up or to feed you or whatever I need to do, you'll stop crying. But until then, you're gonna lay there. You're gonna cry this out, but you're gonna listen to me, right? So let's be honest. Some people want God's blessings but don't want God's discipline. Everybody, like, I was at the hair show today. I happened to be around a lot of women of faith, and I was so grateful because you could feel it in the room. It was a shift, right? And we were just saying how there's so many people out here that speak a good game about God, and they talk about church, and they talk about, what we're supposed to be doing. Like, when things happen, all of a sudden God is like the center, but they don't live like they love God. They not walking in discipline of God. And walking in discipline of God it's not always fun. It doesn't always look good. It doesn't always feel good. Again, it's a sacrifice, right? So you cannot hear God's voice while constantly drowning in noise. So that extra attention that you're looking for from people, right? When God is telling you, I gave you everything you need, and you keep looking outside, or you keep looking over that thing or that person, or you're not hearing me because it's too hard for you to be disciplined. And then I even thought about yesterday, my pastor, talked about on Father's Day, and how he was like talking to the men, and he was just saying how, men are like, they need to be able to be responsible. Like, you could be a great dad, but what are you showing your child? How to be a great man, or how to be a great shepherd? How are you, like, what are you showing when you have kids that you're not taking care of, or you have children that you're taking care of but treat the mother like crap, or you have children that you are taking care of but you are dating 7 women, right? Or you're out here spending money on women but not taking care of your kids, or you have 7 kids but can't take care of them and get mad because you can't take care of them. That's about discipline. You want God to change something, but you're not disciplined enough to stop the negative or reckless behavior. And it's not just men, y'all. I'm not saying that. I just brought that up because that's what my pastor was talking about, because he came from Job. And he was talking about how Job was disciplined. Job believed what God said, even when it hurt him, even when his family was doing the most and he lost it all. He still was there believing that God was going to make a way because he was disciplined. And the devil did not like it. And the devil thought he would lose. But no, the devil has won so many souls because people don't want to be disciplined, because it's easier to be undisciplined or disobedient or out of order than to be disciplined. It's easier to do that. It's easier for us to say, I don't want this. I don't want to go by the rules because it's going to take 2 weeks. So I'm going to do it the shortcut. And then 5 years down the line, you get audited and now you're in trouble, right? Or a woman who that you should not be with this person, but now 5 years down the line, you have a baby that this person don't want to take care of. But you knew that from the beginning, but your flesh was too weak. Same with men. You already have financial issues, but you continue to do what you're doing, trying to be in relationships with this woman and that woman, having children with this woman and that woman, but can't take care of your responsibilities. People in general, knowing that you don't need a new car, you don't need new clothes, you don't need a new home, but we just continue to do things because we're not disciplined. And we're not listening to God, so we're not locked into what he's saying. And I'm guilty. I'm guilty with it too. And that's why there are cycles. There are cycles that, was it Jonathan? I forgot the singer name, but he has a song. It's called Cycles. And I really do feel like that song really talks about how when we are not locked into God, when we are not locked into being disciplined, we are going to always fall into cycles. Even when things get better, it's going to always go back because we're not learning. We're being disobedient. We don't like the pain, or we don't like the discomfort that we're in. So therefore we go to the easier space. Good evening, Ty. How are you? So again, all the noise, you got to cut the noise out. If people are not talking about getting closer to God and really walking that walk, you're going to have to walk away from them people. Especially when God is telling you something and you around all this noise, people telling you could do this, you could do that, you could do this, you could do that. You can't hear God's voice because now it's confusing. When I tell you, like, this past weekend, there's nothing that happened in my life for these last 36 hours that made me feel like I was confused about anything God was saying. It was more so I was mad that I had to listen because I'm like, oh no, it's going to change what I want to do. I don't like it. It don't feel good. But I said, I know it's worth it, and I'm not going to give up before he blesses me. I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to continue to do what I need to do. There are some things that we can do to help us lock in. We can do like prayer. We can do some emergency prayers every day. Like I had to get back to reading my forgiveness prayer. A girlfriend of mine had asked me about soul ties. And I was like, yeah, I definitely know about soul ties. But I remember that I do have a soul ties prayer. And I pulled that out and I was like, I'm reading this because although I got the forgiveness prayer, there's still soul ties that I have with people, right? And people have with me. And so I was like, I need to pull these prayers back out and really get a little bit more focused, right? And get locked in with that. I don't want God to just fix anything. I really just want to continue to have this daily conversation with him so that I can start being more disciplined and being so like stuck with him or locked in with him that even when things are going haywire, I know how to move, right? um, Ask God, do you want? What does He want you to learn today? Right? You also want to ask, what are you avoiding today? And then you want to ask, what do you need to surrender? That is so crucial. When you ask God, what is it that you want me to learn today? What am I avoiding? And what do I need to surrender? I think I talked about this in like episode 17. And I talked about, like before you scroll, pray, right? Get closer to heaven, right? Before you scroll on your phone. But I'm going to also say this before you start your day, y'all. These are some of the things that you need to be asking God so He can guide you. If you wake up early in the morning, like 4 or 5 o'clock, start praying, asking God, what is it that you need me to do today? What is it that I need to learn? What do I need to avoid? Right? And what is it that I need to surrender? This is how you can start locking in with God a little bit more each day, right? Each day, just a little bit more. Reading scripture, like I said, I spend some time with God about 30 minutes a day, sometimes shorter, depends, because God is not looking for us to have a set time all the time. We can have as little as 5-10 minutes, as long as our heart is close with Him and we are not just doing it because we're rushing, right? Or we think that, oh, I just need to no, you actually want to have that relationship and that closeness with God. But God does not say we got to be there for an hour or an hour and a half or all this long time to get close to Him. So 5-10 minutes a day, if you can, the Holy Spirit will enter. And those are the days that things will probably go longer when the Holy Spirit is really in there. It shouldn't only be when you're going through something, right? When you're struggling with something. These conversations with God need to happen constantly on a daily basis. We need to stop looking at the Bible just for information and really look at the Bible as transformation. Like really read what the Bible is saying because it's instructions in there. And if we follow the instructions in the Bible, we will be less disoriented, disobedient. We will struggle less. We will make better decisions. We'll be less confused, less anxious, less worried. Right. And as a therapist, yes, I agree that therapy and the Bible go together. But I'm going to tell you right now, there are some things, if you constantly keep yourself prayed up and read up, there are some things that you won't deal with mentally. Because I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, if you have diabetes, or if you are bipolar, or you are schizophrenic, or you have high blood pressure, not to take your pills, not to do what you need to do and just read. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying lock into the word so that you can stay focused on what God is telling you so that God can heal you while you're doing your part. Because God is going to tell you what to do. He's going to tell you how to do it. And He still wants you to follow the rules of the land while believing and knowing that He can do all things, right? Fasting teaches people how to do things, right? Some people don't like to fast. Some people have a negative connotation. Ooh, I messed that up. We're gonna strike that from the conversation. They have a negative thought of what fasting is. And fasting can be from little things. It can be from food, it can be from things, or people, right? It doesn't always have to be fasting 100%, right? Where you're not eating all day and just drinking water, or some people can go without doing any of that. I'm not there yet, but I will say fasting definitely helps you get closer to God. Sometimes sometimes we have to realize that the things that we feel like we can't live without are probably the things that you want to fast from. So if there's certain type of food, people, things, Those you might want to start with those little things, right? Locking in mentally. Many people want peace but won't confront their pain. That I know for sure. Being a mental health therapist, people will want they 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 want peace. They say I want peace, but they're not willing to deal with what brought them pain in the first place. Some people might say, "Oh, that was so long ago. I don't want to bring it up." But the reason why your behaviors continue to be to continue to cycle is because you're not dealing with that pain. You're not confronting that pain. So therefore, the pain is still sitting there. And so that's why when those things come up, you're constantly in pain. You constantly get irritated, triggered, right? I've had people tell me I trigger them. And I'm like, I'm triggering you because God is telling you to do something. You ain't listening. It ain't always me. Because sometimes I don't even know what I'm saying to certain people. I'm like, I said that to you. They're like, yes, you did. And I'm like, well, that wasn't me. God used me to tell you something and you still chose not to listen. So those are the things, like sometimes God wants us to deal with things that we don't want to deal with because it's too heavy. But God is saying, but do you trust me? Do you trust that I can take it? And once you can trust that he can take it, then it's easier for you to deal with it. It's easier for you to speak about it. But when you don't want to deal with the pain or the things that's causing you pain and just want to keep it secrets, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to constantly be running. Every time you get something good, every time you start doing something, you're going to lose it. You're going to make a hot mess of it because you continue to want to run from the pain than deal with it head on. Healing requires honesty. Be honest what has broken you, what has hurt you, what continues to hurt you. Be honest. Sometimes we don't want to be honest. And so we also hold on to those things. And then if somebody is doing something to us that triggers us, we now blame them and everybody else who's around. But it's like, no, be honest. I don't like when people yell at me. Why? Because when I was younger, my parents, all they did was yell at me. I got blamed for everything. Or I don't like when you hit on me or push me. Why? Because I was in an abusive household growing up. Or I just got out of a 10-year physical abuse relationship. So no, I don't like when you're aggressive to me. I was in prison for 10 years. And so no, I don't like being told what to do. But that doesn't always mean that you got to fight with people just because they say something that triggers you. Sometimes it's good to sit back and say, listen, when you do that or when you say that, I don't like that. So how about we try this instead of running away, instead of arguing, instead of bringing up something that they've done, right? We have a habit of doing that as humans. We have a habit of doing that as flesh. We don't want to talk about the things that are hurting us. We don't want to be honest about it. I don't like that because I was raped by a grown woman and my mother and father didn't do nothing. I was raped by a grown man and my mother or father didn't do nothing. My own parent raped me. Like these are things that people are dealing with and they can't get the healing because it's too hard for them to even talk about it. I was raised by alcoholics. So I don't know what it is to have, closeness. I don't know what affection feels like. Affection to me is toxic relationship, arguing, fighting, cheating, and then getting back together because that's what I'm used to. Right? Some people have gone through like being bullied in school due to, like, for me, I had acne really bad when I was in I think my acne started probably like in the 3rd or 4th grade. And then I had like these big old glasses and I thought they were cool, but people talked about me and it started making me self-conscious. And for a long time I didn't realize that those things was making me self-conscious. And that's why now, like, I'm such a stickler about being unique because back then I didn't understand it. But now as an adult, I realized that was my personality and I love my personality. And so, rather you like how I dress or how I look, that's on you. I like how I dress, how I look. Even though I work very hard to keep my skin okay. Like, I don't have the best skin right now, but it's good. It's smooth enough. Yeah, I wear makeup, but sometimes I don't wear makeup. But growing up, you couldn't tell me that I was cute because I felt like I was beat down so often by people who only saw certain things or just wanted to hurt my feelings. So therefore, I stopped talking about it and I started reacting in ways that was unhealthy, right? Dating people that really didn't mean no good to me just because I got some attention, right? These are things that are real things that people go through, y'all. And that's why we got to deal with like locking in mentally. Because if you don't, you will end up being 60, 70 years old still with all these negative opinions about yourself, not loving who you are, feeling like you need validation from people who don't even care about you, only care about what you're doing for them, right? Or what you can do for them. And also, you cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. I go by the transparent sister in women's healing. My mom tells me sometimes I tell people too much. People tell me that. I get it. I'm working on that. You know, um, but I honestly feel like I talk about the things that have happened to me because I know that there's somebody out here that might have gone through what I've gone through or might be going through similar things. And so it's not to get attention. It's not to, to like throw anything in people's faces. It's really about acknowledging my pain and how I've gotten through it. So, it's really about me acknowledging those things that hurt me so I could start healing. That's why it's hard for me to hold grudges, because it's like, for what? We're supposed to be able to talk through things that we don't like, change our behaviors and move on. But what happens is sometimes people don't want to change the behavior, so we all both go through the same behavior over and over, when really all we have to do is stop the stupid behavior so that we can move forward. But if the other person isn't willing, then we do have to move on so that we're not continuing to feel bad about a behavior that the other person isn't willing to acknowledge, especially when we know we're doing the work, right? So we're going to practice asking yourself, what thoughts dominates my day, right? If those thoughts keep coming up and they're like, it's distracting you from great things, you need to kind of refocus, give you some positive affirmations. Are there facts or fears? Thinking about the things that are in your head. Is it real or is it not? We don't know what everybody is doing. We don't know how everybody felt. Ask questions, right? And what would I talk to someone I love the way I talk to myself? That's big. And I always tell people, don't tell me you love me, but then talk to me or treat me the way that you would not want to be talked to or treated. I do my best not to talk to you or treat you the way that I wouldn't want to be treated. And so I think for me, sometimes that's why it gets hard when people treat me bad when I treat them well. And so, these are things that I ask myself. I don't want people to treat me that way. And that's why I try my best not to treat them that way. And it takes time, guys. It's not something that happens overnight. It takes time. Like, I have been working very hard on myself. It hasn't even been 15 years that I've done, like, since I actually started my healing. And it's been about 10 years since I've actually started really healing. So this is like, I had to take a break from being a therapist because I wasn't healed. I was a hot mess. And I'm not saying that I'm 100% healed now, but at least I'm in a space where I can understand when I need to work on something. And I'm going to go get the help to work on it. So that's why I meet with my therapist once a month. And sometimes if I have to meet with her twice a month, I'm doing that. because the stuff that I hear on a daily basis sometimes could cause countertransference, and I could start picking up on that, right? I could be triggered by things that people are talking about, and then I'm like, "Ooh, I need to work on that." But as a therapist, I still have to do my work. I still have to make sure that I'm asking myself the hard questions and locking in, right? Journaling. We need to journal. Even if it's voice journaling, journal, pray, talk to God daily, every second, before you make a move, before you answer that phone, before you go to that office, before you go down the street, before you get in your car. Anoint yourselves. Each day, wake up and say, I'm going to do better. I'm going to love better. I'm going to listen better. I'm going to speak less. That was another thing God showed me. He brought me back to a conversation I had with my dad right before he passed away. And I was so over my job. And my dad used to always tell me, just leave, just leave. I'm like, Daddy, I can't afford, I was in the process of trying to buy a house. Like, I had all these things going. 2 weeks before my dad died, my house fell through, mortgage fell through, and I was angry. And then from that, I had an issue at work where I had to fire someone, and I got in trouble for that because they felt like I should have been fired them. And I was explaining to my dad some things, and I was trying to explain them. I was trying to talk to the my employee and blah blah blah. And my dad was just like letting me know, like, sometimes people don't want to hear the wisdom; they're not ready to hear it. Sometimes, like, people don't want your opinion, and I'm just like, dang. And God reminded me of that conversation because just a few days before that, somebody else told me something very similar because they were mad at how I spoke with them about something that they did to me. And instead of them coming to me and saying, I apologize, they chose to be nasty to me and then remind me of all the negative things that I've done in their eyes to them. But again, I had to remind myself that that is them, not me. But then God had to remind me that here you are trying to save or trying to help or try to give wisdom to someone who's not even ready to come and have a serious conversation with me. And I was like, whoop. What they say, drop the mic. That's what it was. I dropped the mic. Right? And then locking in physically. That's the last one I'm going to talk about. And that is going to be talking about, like, the body is carrying your trauma. Right? We know that our body keeps the score, right? It's a book about that. Like, all the times our body has been traumatized in some way. Many of you know that I have been sexually abused. The last one was in college, and that was something I had to work through. And I didn't realize, like, there were certain things about my body that I didn't like. It was due to some of the abuse and the trauma that my body went through. I was stressed about things, and our bodies hold that stress. Our bodies grieve. Our bodies hold grief within us. Anxiety lives in our bodies. Unprocessed pain eventually speaks in our bodies. Hypertension, diabetes, I said hypertension. We have weak muscles, right? Cartilage loss, arthritis, right? We have these things that really seeps into our bodies when we go through pain, such as unprocessed trauma. In 1 Corinthians, it talks about, do you Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit? So it's so important to take care of your bodies. That's why when I see people who have struggled with trauma and now they're drinking, they're using drugs, they're using sex, like that's not keeping that temple clean. That's not respecting your temple. And that's why it's so important that you speak to God, that you release the pain. That's why it's so important that you lock in with God so that you're not holding on to this stuff. Because our bodies are holding on to that trauma when we're not speaking on it, when we're not releasing it, when we're not surrendering it to God, when we're not forgiving people, when we're not forgiving ourselves. God gave us one body, and we need to start treating it as a blessing. Our bodies are not responsible for us. We are responsible for our bodies. And so that's why I am really big with helping people understand that talk therapy is something that is needed. Because with talk therapy, we getting it out, and now I'm giving you something positive to put back in. That is what it's about. It's not about a bunch of psychological terms. It's not always about medication. It's really allowing yourself to talk about the things that you keep holding on to because you feel like it hurts you too much. So that's why I would tell people lift weights, go to the gym, walk, right? Stretch, move your body, drink a lot of water, dance. I love to dance, y'all. I may not be the most rhythmic, I may not have the most rhythm, but I'm gonna dance. I'm gonna dance because that's fun to me. And when I'm done, I'm releasing stress, I'm releasing anxiety, I'm releasing all the things of the day. Sometimes all the things of a year, just from dancing and moving and going to the gym, because I'm releasing it. I'm letting it out. I'm leaving it on the floor. Let somebody else stomp on it and kill it, because I'm getting it out of me. Sleep. Some people glorify exhaustion. I remember starting my business. People say, "Oh, Tosh, you got to be up. I don't want to be up all night and all times of night working. I do believe that God is going to provide. So I don't glorify sleep deprivation as something positive. It's exhausting. I want to sleep. Being tired is not a personality trait. I don't want to have to say, "Oh, I've been busy, so I'm so tired." No, I'm tired of saying I'm tired. I don't want to be tired. I want to be productive. And when you are sleeping, you are being productive, not only to your mind, but to your body. Make sure you go in and get your checkups, mental checkups, physical checkups, eyes, ears, teeth. Sometimes we don't even think about how important the teeth health is for our bodies. Your gum health is so important. We need to take care of that. And so tonight I want to leave with you a question. If your body could talk, what would it say you're doing to it right now? What would it say? Would it be positive? Would it be negative? Would it be neutral? What would your body say today? So, guys, we got to lock in. We got to lock in emotionally as well. I just thought about that. Like we got to lock in emotionally. Old betrayals, childhood wounds, rejection, betrayal, grief, shame. And we're walking around acting like we okay, acting like things don't bother us, picking things up just to put things back down. We're doing too much. And emotionally, we are not locking in. And that's why many of us are out here hurt. Many of us are out here confused, lost, out here hurting other people because we're not locked in emotionally. We're not locked in physically, spiritually. We're not locked in. We're locked out. So this weekend, while I was locked in with God, and when I was thinking about all the things that I was struggling with, where I wanted Him to release me from, God said, I've been released you, but you ain't been listening. I released you a long time ago, but you held on. And so when He started giving me all these scriptures, it started making so much sense to me. The confusion was gone. So Saturday night, I felt like after I finished all of my crying and my eyes were the size of balls, I realized that it is hard dealing with people who don't want to change. It is hard trying to motivate people to walk the way that God wants them to walk. Or I don't know how God wants them to walk, but just say like they have to know what God wants for them. I realized that it wasn't that I was upset with God. I was upset with myself. I'm exhausted. I had nothing else to give, but I kept trying to give to people. I kept trying to give to the wrong people, put it that way. Because as much as I was trying to give, the much people were taking from me and then making me feel worthless for trying to help them. And so God had to remind me that the things that I was struggling with was me being disobedient to what He already had told me to do. So yeah. So although I wanted to celebrate this weekend and I wanted to be out here in these streets, what they say I wanted to be outside. I did. I really did want to be outside this weekend. But I needed a reset. I needed to lock in with God. And so I don't know about y'all, but I wanted to bring this to you today because it was such a refreshing thing for me this weekend. And at first I thought it was punishment. At first I thought I was just going crazy, right? But God needed me to lock in with Him this weekend because what He has for me, I got to be ready. I have to be ready. I have to be healed. I have to change. And I have to want better, right? And believe that He has better for me. And I do. I do. But I think sometimes we all can get a little distracted by what we want. And then we move away from what God has already had for us. So that's all I got for y'all tonight. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that it was something in here that could help you, move forward from wherever you might have been stuck, rather it's grief, rather it's betrayal, rather it's relationship, employment, whatever it is. I just ask that you just lean on God and lock in with Him so that you could be emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally healed, stable, and obedient. So you're not confused, I'm never going to give up on people that God tells me to stay with. I'm never going to give up on things that God tells me to keep doing. They might think it. People might feel like, oh, I'm wasting my time. But when I tell y'all I be walking with God and I be like, I don't want to do this. And He just be like, well, I don't want to do certain things either, but I do it because I love you. That's how I feel that me and God be talking, y'all. So that's what I got for y'all. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Remember, it's your girl, Dr. Tasha Rose, your transparent sister and women's healing. And I want you to know that I love you and God loves you too. Peace.